Uh, then during high school and then later your college years, uh, you did some hippie pilgrimages. I mean, you were right out there. Could you tell us a little bit about some of your pilgrimages, some of your highs and lows?
So when we went to school, we had haircuts. It was like this, short back and sides. It was called like military haircuts and things like that. And the dress code was very, very restrictive. And when I got out of school, I just wanted to escape from everything. And I'd I had a gap, 2 terms, and my parents thought they'd send me to visit relatives in India, so I actually went to stopped in a few places. The plan was that I would stop in a few places on the way to India, but in Crete, I met a bunch of people with rucksacks, all heading to India by land. And that seemed so exciting and so much better than my plan of, flying from one hotel to another in comfort
And
and
you were how old at this
security.
time? You were how old at this
I was
time?
18.
18.
So yeah, I was the second youngest person I met on that hippie trail.
Okay.
but but I was arguably having the most fun of my life. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful adventure. I was with some really interesting, very gentle people. And we And we were discovering, we felt like Marco Polo. We were discovering things that there wasn't that much travel going on in those days. There wasn't. You would go along the road, the Silk Route, as it were, for miles and not see many cars. You'd see the odd broken down Citroen 2CV because they were popular for crossing the desert in. And
What would be your most memorable experiences during that period? People you met, or places you were, or close calls, or
we pulled into Herat in Afghanistan at about sort of 4 in the morning with quite a stiff breeze, and we're freezing cold. Where those buses, the airfare, the bus fare from Istanbul to New Delhi was about $20 in those days if you took the local buses from one town to the next. And those buses did not have cushions on the seats. The roads were very bumpy, let me say. They were not consistently tarmacked. And so we arrived in Herat, and this was just like a nowhere city. I think there was maybe it was 1,700,000 people in Herat at that time, and the guy at the bus stations, we told him, we said we needed a hotel, showed him the sleeping bags. Nobody spoke a single word of English. It wasn't that they could get by with a few things in waiting rooms. There was not a single word of
nothing?
English spoken anywhere. So, I mean, all those things, it was a huge communications adventure just explaining, but he knew we wanted a place for that. We'd arrived on bus at Herat station looking like a bunch of people who were
Looking beat
clearly
up.
not Afghanis who had relatives and knew where they were going. So he made us step, 6 steps backwards, and then we were in his hotel. And he had a tin, one of those a barrel that he put sawdust in, and that was the heating for the night. And we stayed there a month. It was just such an amazing place. There was so much to explore, and the people were so welcoming. And I just shudder to think, that beautiful city where we could listen to music, where they made the silk carpets, with the looms going gung, gadung, gadung. And there'd be in the room, there might be 2 or 3 looms in operation, banging out some kinds of complex rhythms. Somebody would come in with a sitar like instrument and start playing, jamming along with them. And they would play the most amazing music all day just to keep each other going and stuff like that.
Wow.
And it was absolutely beautiful. They would give us tea to drink with lots and lots of sugar, and we loved it. And there was a metal part of the city where you couldn't, you went deaf walking through it almost. And there was one guy who said his cousin was importing hash from Russia, and
Uh-huh.
he showed us this cake of hash like this with damn. Hi, Randy. I'm okay. Go on. Oh, thank you for letting me know. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, I'm I'm being interviewed by local radio, so you're on local radio. You're on local radio right now. I'm getting interviewed by the
and you're
local
laundry.
radio station.
You're
So
one of us
so
now.
you're on local radio as well. Do you have anything to say to Sarasota?
Oh,
I guess that's a
Oh, she
no.
said she can't do that. So it'll have to be another time. We'll catch her. We'll catch her eventually. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, bye for now.
We might even leave that in. I don't know.
That's my friend Randy, who is my car specialist. Um,
Any
yeah, so it was a beautiful, beautiful town. Nothing higher than like 2 stories in the whole of Iraq, and very friendly people everywhere. And they had good food. And the guys I recall where I was now. The guy with the cousin who went to Russia to get hash came back with these cakes like that. He showed us on the bottom of the hash cake this thing with 5 stars and a truck and stuff like that. And this was his guarantee. This was his proof that it
no.
was, Russian, best quality Russian hashish. And turns out, we saw on the table that in the bottom of the glass there was exactly the same inset
Same
logo as
embossed.
we had on the hash cake. So we just again no single word of English, but we pointed and said,
Everybody had a good
very good joke. You thought you had us there, but no.
laugh.
And we understood each other. It was wonderful.
Oh, any
And
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
population now is doubled. I can't imagine how that little town in the middle of the desert, absorbed, the same again in terms of population.
Mm.
And most of those population displaced people, of course, and refugees. You can't. At times, I wish I'd stayed longer. You can't go back to many of the places. One of the things I've learned with
They're
traveling
they're not the
is you
same.
just cannot go back. It's not the
yeah, one of
same
those
anymore.
once in a lifetime opportunities.
Yeah, yeah.
It
You
changes so
certainly
much
missed
after
it.
you can't go back and see the same thing. Unbelievable
That's,
story.
that's exactly how it is.
Any border guard incidents or anything like that along the way?
Well, we arrived at the border between Afghanistan and Pakistan, which is, one of the most famous, and that's the launching point for one of the most wonderful mountain passes in the world, the Khyber Pass,
Khyber Pass.
which goes over the Himalayas between Pakistan and India. And at the border, there were 3 or 4 kind of like really sleepy guards who were kind of they had rifles slung over their chest, but it didn't look like they had any bullets. And they wanted us to fill out forms, so they had scraps of sort of paper sort of printed that we could fill out that looked like they were falling apart, but we filled them out. And we then saw a column of dust coming towards us across the desert from the Himalaya side of the border. And eventually, we were all watching it because there was nothing else to do. I mean, we were just kind of in line for filling out these forms or else. And it turned out to be a Japanese guy on a motorcycle.
Huh.
He did not speak a word of English. So not only did he not speak Afghan, he did not speak another, but we did manage to work out that he was going to a place in Germany. It was the only words that we could understand was that his address. He could repeat his address in Germany that he was heading towards with his motorcycle. And the guards just let him fill out his form in Japanese. I, in retrospect, I understand they were totally illiterate and they didn't know what is said on any of the forms. They were there to collect the sort of $3 or whatever it was to to cross the border, and that was it. Apart from that, they just didn't care. You could write anything you wanted on those forms. And then he disappeared, a column of dust going towards
And so he goes.
Kabul. And we all stood and watched it for 5 minutes until there was no speck left because we're in the middle of the desert. What else are you going to do? It was fun.
Did you ride over the Khyber Pass in a bus? How did you get over?
Yeah, the bus looks, it's all these people who drive as if they didn't have any brakes, and then afterwards you think about it and you wonder, well, how would they have got replacement brakes or replacement brake pads out in that wilderness with no resources, and there wasn't a helpful agent for Ford saying, okay, here's some new brake pads, you might need them. There weren't any brake pads, they just changed down.